Hello. Hi.
Hey, you doing okay?
So, full disclosure, went to bed with not the best news and then woke up with not even better news and all about health issues. And I had already canceled a podcast yesterday because we were talking about good, fun stuff. And I thought about canceling with you, and I was like, I don't want to cancel with her because one, I we've been looking forward to this. It's your birthday week. I don't want to cancel you on your birthday week.
Oh,
And then two, I was like, this is exactly why I started this podcast. It's because everybody goes through stuff, and who better to talk about my stuff right now with than you and the topic which we were going to touch upon, right? Which is why you're creating this path of healing for patients like me that need it. And so I was like, this will be, I think it's going to change the direction a little bit, but not too much. So why don't we I took a because I'm not the happiest right now. But it takes like an hour to kick in. So if we start noticing that, that's what's happening. Okay, it's gonna take a little bit to kick in, but then hopefully I can, between you and the pharmaceuticals, I'll be in a happier mood by the time that this episode is over and have a lot more hope. Um, but let's go ahead and get kicked off with the questions I ask every single podcast guest. Hello, hi, who are you? How do we know each other? And where can people find you online?
well, thank you for having me. I am so honored that you can be comfortable enough to talk about this with me. And I find that empowering. I said that before we jumped on. It is about, yes, you can show your vulnerability, but that in itself is strength. And you allowing yourself to be human and letting people see that is beautiful because it lets other people shine their light. And that's how we find our tribe and vibe and women empowerment. So that's one. So I can't wait to dive in deep with you. And let's see, we met through Women Already Connected. And the first event we met at was my wellness workshop, and we hit it off. I am so excited to not only talk through this podcast, but even just is building our friendship even when we were talking at the coffee shop. So that is how we met. And I'm so excited for that and where people can find me. So my Instagram handle is super simple. It's at Dr. Remina, DrRemina. And my website is equally as simple, www.drremina.com. And of course, I have a podcast too called the Dr. Remina Panjwani Show. So simple all around, y'all.
I love it. We'll make sure to link all that in the show notes. But Dr. Ramina, you skipped the first question.
Oh, oops.
Who are you?
That's right. I got so excited to talk to you. So my day job is an internal medicine physician in the hospital. I am in a hospital setting so I can pay for my passion. So for those of y'all that aren't familiar with medicine, I'm basically the bandage approach in conventional medicine. So when you are sick, you go to the ER and you get admitted in the hospital, you have a heart attack, I help you put a bandage on it. That's basically simple terms. My passion is to prevent you from getting there. It's functional medicine and holistic wellness. And I believe my philosophy is we are complex humans. We're not just a body of organs. We're a mind, body, spirit. I utilize personalized medicine. I do concierge medicine, personalized to each unique individual. And lifestyle is so impactful. And we can dive into that in a few minutes. But how you sleep, what you're eating, what's your stress relief, what's your mind, body, spirit, and all those to help you optimize and thrive so you can live your fullest life.
Yeah. And this is so relevant to my life, personally. And I've had these conversations with friends because sometimes people don't want to have this conversation. So, one example is I have a friend who is dealing with a lot of stress, and go figure, he's having some severe stomach issues. And I'm like, well, I don't know that it's your diet. I don't know that it's what you're eating. It might be the physiological manifestation of other stressors happening on your body, and he doesn't want to entertain this. He's just like, "No,
Mm.
it's probably something I ate. It'll pass. It'll pass, right?" And I read this book. Are you familiar with it called The Body Keeps the Score?
Yes, yes. Mhm.
Yeah. And so The Body Keeps the Score it was recommended to me because of my health issues. I've been plagued with some health issues that most people my age haven't. So I think that's played a really big role in my perspective on life, love, what matters in life, being able to prioritize things, having a little bit more of an old soul because of that. One of the reasons why I almost canceled the podcast is because I call them relapses. So I compare, it's interesting that I'm using like alcohol recovery terms, but it's
Mhm.
just my best way of grappling it. I have a myriad of health issues that involve blood, tumors, and blood clots. And I'm in a new relationship and he hasn't experienced it yet. So now I have to sit down and talk to him about what this means. And this morning I just woke up so overwhelmed because I have to go back to the doctors. I have to go back to get scans. And so in a lot of ways it's already bad that physically I'm in pain, but really the hardest part for me of navigating these health issues is navigating the healthcare system. It
Mm, yes.
I woke up wishing I don't want to live. Not that I want to kill myself, but when I think about the fact that I'm about to once again spend thousands of dollars, there's no way I'm getting out of this without spending thousands of dollars. So all of these things start overwhelming me
Yeah.
and I feel crushed. I feel like I can't financially get ahead. It's just, there's no way to slice it. I would be in a much financial better situation today if I didn't have these health issues that nobody else I know has. Nobody. So it's like, and I know we all have our issues, but this one feels both, I'm like, wait a minute, but mine stops my life. I can't work and I'm spending a bunch of money. And
Mhm.
so I feel really isolated in it. And I get really overwhelmed. And then I want to go into depression and not do the work. But then that's another relapse. That would be relapse number two, which
Mhm.
is not doing the work to make sure that I'm getting my recovery. Right.
Yeah.
And nobody else can do it for me. I've had friends and family try to intervene and do things for me when I just gave up and didn't want to, and they can't. You can't book an appointment for somebody else. You could pretend to be
Mhm.
them, but you can't show up as them and get information from the doctor on their behalf. You can't do a blood test for somebody else. You have to do it all yourself when you're an adult. And so it's interesting that that's where I say I was gonna cancel this, but here you are. You are a healthcare provider, and you are, I would imagine, especially with your background, having some visibilities to patients like mine. And this conversation does not need to be specific to my situation because I'm fine. Like I have a game plan. It just fatigues me, if that makes sense, right? Like I'm
Right.
fine. I will be okay. I'm I will be okay, you know? But I'm like, okay, I'm a strong person and I have a good support system and I'm educated and I've been dealing with this long enough that it's not new to me. But wow, how do other people do it? I don't
Mhm.
understand. How do single I'm single. I have no
Mhm.
children. How do mothers do it? I have the flexibility to work from home. I've always had flexible hybrid jobs. How do people who work at McDonald's do it? Right? And so just looking at this, I mean, I think that what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about is, one, the passion. I love how you said your passion of, this I don't want to say integrated medicine. Is that the right way? Integrated medicine?
Functional medicine. Yeah, functional
Functional.
medicine.
Yeah. Can we talk a little bit about your journey from your side of the table?
Mhm.
And maybe kick it off with the fact that, so first of all, you're beautiful. Happy birthday.
Mhm. Thank
Oh my gosh.
you.
You saw my Instagram this last
Mhm.
couple. I posted a couple pictures of Dr. Remina. She's beautiful and sweet and of smaller stature. And so a lot of people might be surprised to hear that you are a veteran. You are a US veteran, a
Yeah.
badass. You're a badass. So can you talk a little bit about your background in military service, advocating for yourself as a woman? And a little bit about what brought you to where you are today.
Definitely. And your experience, before I answer that, your experience, I can't even put into words how I feel for you on that. And on a side note, we should definitely talk deeper on that. So see what we can do to help you out. But yes, it is frustrating, and I've seen both sides. I've seen it as a caregiver. I see it as a physician when I flip into the conventional world, and I see it on my concierge patients. So I see it all around, and it's absolutely frustrating and fatigue, and you do want to give up, but you can't. So I'm not going to let you. um, yeah. So my background in the military. So a little bit more on that too. So I am South Asian, and culturally, it's very it's unheard of, I would say, for petite women that need to be in a box, be South Asian, and all they do is get married, and that's it, right? And you got to change the cultural mindset too. But being first generation, my parents immigrated here for a better life. So we began from almost nothing, right? So it took courage for my parents to come to a foreign country as any other immigrant family would. So what they knew is what they could do the best for us, right? To give us the opportunity. And all they knew was, I have to get my daughter married, and that's it. And I'm like, no, this is America, and I'm a little rebel, so I'm gonna make my own way. And it's looking back on it, I'm like, okay, what drove me to that? Like first of all, was I had to find my own resources because I'm in this rhetoric in this culture that that's all they know, that's all women know, but in America, you're progressive, you're moving forward, and you're integrating into the society where, yes, there is some women empowerment, and there is, yes, that American dream, but what does that really look like? Because if you don't have the resources, where do you start, right? So I had this intuition, I would say, and just the information that came together, and the path I needed to take was going into the Air Force. And at this time, it wasn't the most ideal because we were on the verge of the Iraqi war. So that's a risk in itself. But something inside of me told me I need to do this because this will somehow get me the tools to figure out what I need to do to change the trajectory, not only of me, but my family and the generation thereafter. So I did, I went to it, and then I ended up, and this was right out of high school. So I ended up being in a war zone, 18, 19-year-old, gun that's like bigger than me in Iraq. So, that in itself was pretty life changing. And your brain's not even fully developed, right? So you are experiencing all these different aspects of the world, and you're out there on your own. So I would say it was during an attack, where I had an epiphany. I had like a self realization where I need to take things into my own hands. Life is way too short, and all that self doubt, that imposter syndrome, all that flipped because I had to make myself. I built that confidence. I got that the means to pursue what I would want to next. I wasn't told I was smart enough to go to school. I wasn't told all that because we just didn't know. So I went through that, built it all, and those tools gave me much more than the ability to get a college education, but the confidence, the perseverance. And I took that into everything I do now. My search for knowledge, my willingness to serve others, my willingness to improve myself and be that person for that woman, that girl, whoever that needs someone to tell them, yes, you can. Don't let them tell you no. Who cares if this is like a cultural barrier? We'll break that glass ceiling, change the trajectory. That's what I did. And that's what Dr. Remina is out there to do. You know, it's more than just holistic healthcare. It's there to do more, you know, because that's how you empower people. But yeah, so that's how I took it. And then that paid for my college education. I went to UT, and then I got into medicine because I had to I had to really dig deep, like what was it that was stopping me from pursuing what I wanted, right? A lot of people that are physicians, they either know they want to be physicians, or they have a family that they come from money and resources, and they're given that, like, you're going to go to med school. Me, I was like, you know what? I really want to be a doctor, and I'm not going to let anyone tell me that I can't, and I'm going to find my resources. And of course, with that, with amazing mentors, they helped me find my way. And I did. I went to med school, and that was a battle on its own because, you know, it comes back to mindset too, right? Like in the war zone, you have to have a certain mindset because yes, physically you are getting attacked. There's day in and day out, but it's that mental ability, that mental capacity to keep yourself sane. And that goes a long way because that brings you into, like, look at today's mental health crisis, right? If you look at veterans that come out, they have like PTSD or they can't function in society. Well, sadly, you know, they need the tools to figure out how to manage their mental health. That's part of it. And yes, I persevered. I did things to take care of my mental health. A lot of mindset, a lot of like self-talk and things that you do to release that stress. Like you find ways to release stress, what works for you, and that's what takes me even today. So before I move on, like how I made it to med school and here today, I know one of the things that comes to mind too is it's kind of built into, I guess, my family background, right? Like I remember when we were talking in the coffee shop, my grandmother was a refugee from Africa, and it's kind of crazy because how my family like you wouldn't look at me and think, hey, I was born in Denmark, right? Like I'm just all over the place. Yes, my background is Indian Pakistani, but I ended up being born in Denmark, and part of that comes from my grandmother being a refugee. She was kicked out during a tyrant that ruled the area who would kick people out, and so they ended up um, in Denmark. And I remember whenever I talked to my grandmother, and she, funny thing too, her birthday was on April 9th. So her birthday, my birthday, and my mom's birthday are like literally within the days time frame. So it's beautiful. But she would tell me stories where soldiers would come in and basically threaten them. They would take their house. They would take people's lives. They were threatened. And I remember she would tell me, like, they told us that you guys better leave within this many days. Otherwise, you guys will no longer be here. And so that was perseverance in a different way. Obviously, they were in their own war zone. But I feel like that generational strength and trauma and the women in my family goes a long way. And so I feel like that in itself was also motivating, you know? So I feel like when I change the trajectory, what I'm doing now, I think back on that. I think back on how my grandmother had to struggle in a way, how my parents had to struggle, and to be able to provide that relief is truly humbling and fulfilling to me. And I want to set up for my kids. I have two little boys. I want them to see a mom that is, I wouldn't say superwoman because that's unattainable, but someone who chases her dreams, that doesn't let people put her into a box, to break that glass ceiling and to go do what your passion is, to show that you could still be present and a working mom, and to be independent boys. And yeah, I just want to create a legacy of where my kids are proud of me in a way, you know?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think we all are creating if it's not our own kids, it's definitely our inner child that we're trying to make proud. I think that we see that. It's funny hearing you talk about your, literally going to war, being in battle, having the physical, need to survive, but then also understanding the mental. And then being able to look back at what your grandmother went through and the turmoil she had. Here you are talking about going to war and being in the military and then getting through med school, which is so difficult, and what your grandmother went through and what my ancestors went through.
Mhm.
My problems are not like that. I just have a hurt stomach. Like like when we really get down to it, it's like, okay, boo-hoo, your tummy hurts. Oh,
Oh.
you got a heavy period that's lasted for 6 months. So, I think that that's where I go, okay, well, am I strong? Like, am I strong, or am I really just weak? Like, I never know, because I can't ask my other friends who like have these conditions and go, how do you deal with it, right? And
Yeah.
so I'm just like, so because that's the thing I'll hear from people all the time. You're so strong. You're so strong. You've had several surgeries and you bounce back, and you go and you work out and you go to the gym, and I typically bounce back, right? And I'm going ham. And so people are like, "Oh, you're so strong." And then you see my scars and you're like, "Yeah, I've had surgery here, 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 and I've had these treatments and I've had these things happen." And people will be like, "Wow, you're so strong." And all I think is, "Are you sure about that?" I don't know. I don't know. And I love what you said about the building confidence part, because it is through those adversities, whether they're real, fragmented in our head, whatever it is, when we overcome adversities, there is confidence on the other side of, yep,
Mhm.
I did that. Yes, I can do it again. And even though I don't want to do it again, I'm going to do it better if I have to. And I know I
Mhm.
could do it better than you because I've done it and you haven't. There's a audacity that comes with those type of strenuous situations. And I think that that's kind of what you were talking about in terms of med school. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
I survived the military. I could survive med school.
That's funny you say that because that's exactly like when I have a hard time, I'm like, oh my gosh, literally I went through a war zone. This is cake. Like, but I also want to say like what you're feeling shouldn't minimize that because your body is telling you something and it's your story. Um and that's also like something where I'll think through, okay, well, why am I feeling this way? This is a reflection of something I need to resolve. Like, what's going on? So, work through it. It's like listening to your body, like something needs to, is it the self talk? Yeah. Is it the confidence thing? Then, yeah, let's go back. I've done more challenging things to get through this. And that is exactly what I told myself to get through med school. Like, I would just, I would put it through my head. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to be at the top of my class. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it. And I don't care what anybody says. And thankfully, yeah, I go from not having the resources to being the top of my class and then the top of my residency training, the top doctors. Like, and I'm not saying that to brag, but I'm saying that because here I am, my inner child that wasn't told, hey, you're smart or anything. Basically I had to build everything. And yes, like humbling experiences and of course great mentors and all, but that girl fought hard to be at the top. And so I take that into what I do today too. And how that helps me break through the conventional medicine as well, right? Like, and we look at another trying time. We look at COVID, and that's I come out of training, I get through med school, I come out of my residency training, which is specific to internal medicine. And then my first job is in the hospital setting, and COVID hits, right? So that's already, we're treading strange waters. Nobody knows what COVID is. People are dying almost every hour. And physicians and everyone else in the healthcare field, nurses, everyone, we're just being pushed to the edge. And it's just ugly. The medicine component, corporate medicine insurance driven, only business CEOs of the hospitals, like they're the ones that are winning, sadly, right? Yes, it's great. And the hospitals in America will put the bandage on what you need at that time. They're great, life saving, some great institutions. But what I saw and what I went into medicine for was not being fulfilled. And that's where I went in to pursue further functional medicine. I got certified from the Cleveland Clinic, one of the best institutions out there. And it fueled me to make a change. And then that's where I came up with, you know what, let's just keep breaking the glass ceiling. Let's make my own brand because the perfect job doesn't exist. And I can do this my way. I'm not going to have insurance in a corporate field tell me you only have 5 minutes with the patient and I have to spend the rest of the day dealing with insurance and nonsensical parameters that stakeholders make you go through. It doesn't serve the patients at all. And what happens is you burn out. So now I get to treat patients the way they should be. I don't have to put a time limit on it. And it's just beautiful because it's listening to the patients that have been told everything is fine, it's in your head, nothing's wrong with you. Well, that's absolutely incorrect. And we're going to work on that.
I have such a duality of feelings about Western medicine because, on one hand, exactly like you said, I have gone through the hoops so many times. I will say that at least I know what they are and I can anticipate them. So I'm fairly confident. Like I know that I have to wait and I know, what questions to ask ahead of times and how to
Mhm.
make sure I'm emailing the doctor ahead of time so they know what I'm going to ask. So it's all I try to make it as seamless as possible because I'm neurotic as hell. And it's not my first rodeo, right? But it can get overwhelming and frustrating on so many fronts, and I know that it is for the healthcare providers as well. What I'm wondering though is what are the implications for you in that transition, right? Because if you don't play nice in the sandbox with the parameters set out with insurance and the boards, right? You
Mhm.
you you do risk, like for me, as a patient, I'm so open to the, we'll say, alternative medicine options. I'm super, super open to them. I've done chiropractic. I did a Reiki
Mhm.
healing when we met. I absolutely believe in the power of meditation and medicine men and medicine women, and I'm all about that. But when it comes to my surgeries, I want a board certified,
Yes.
surgeon. I don't want someone who got their education on vacation in Colombia. Like, it's
Yeah.
great that you did that to get your like mushroom magic, certificate. And that's great. And now you're a shaman. I respect it. I love it for you, Shelly. Go get it, girl. But you ain't gonna cut me up. I need like traditional medicine. And so I think I struggle because I definitely don't have the answers, but I really struggle with the back and forth of understanding that there's a time and a place for all of it. And also
Mhm.
understanding that it seems like because they don't work together, this idea of internal holistic functional side of the medicine versus the business side of the
Mhm.
business, I just feel like they're so congruent and yet paradoxical. And
Mhm.
so I'm wondering for you, having one foot in one foot in the other, knowing that the left foot that sits with the insurance is where you're making your money. How do you resonate with that? Like, how do you
Mhm.
come to terms and where do you decide to put forth your energy so you have enough to continue long term?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And what I love about how I practice functional medicine, it is merging the best of Eastern and Western medicine because I still do believe conventional medicine done right is very helpful. It's so advanced, but there's also, depending on the population, who you're speaking to, functional medicine is personalized, and it is taking into factors the lifestyle components because it's so impactful and it's not emphasized in conventional medicine. So I would say is in the setting of the hospital, if it's acute emergency, that's great. That's not going to be the population to work backwards at that time. You know, where you get it is the people that want to do the work, that the alarm flags are going off in your body and you're listening before you get to the hospital. And that's beautiful. A lot of people are moving that direction. And even if you look at the Ivy League institutions, like look at Johns Hopkins, look at Harvard, they are bringing forward so much research that functional medicine has been talking about for years, but conventional medicine takes decades to put it into a paper and then it goes to standard. But you don't want to standardize personalized medicine. So I would say when you mentioned the gut issue, right? So Johns Hopkins talked about gut brain axis, and we know that there's a connection, right? There's things you could do, how you're eating things, and look at how food is processed in the States now. It's not food anymore, depending on what you get, right? It's so filled with fillers. And that's of course going to change your microbiome, your gut, and then your brain. And that goes into mood and then brain fog, then your hormones and all these things that we feel. So there is data, there's Eastern and Western medicine. That's how you combine both. And you look at Harvard, right? You look at the types of foods and you look at mood disorder, how that affects you, like ketogenic diet. If you practice mindfulness, if you regulate your mood, then there's chemicals, there's those happy chemical messengers, like the neurotransmitters, the hormones and everything, they have an impact. And so it's not hippie medicine. It really is based on data and research. And these are just modalities to help people manage. Like, why not? If you're saying meditation, sound bath, yoga, movement, all that is helping you, then why knock it down, right? And more practitioners are also utilizing this because it's benefiting people. And people are searching for it even more. They're like, no, I don't want another pill. I don't want a bandage approach. I want what's going to work for me and listen to me. And I'm like, I hear you. I see you. I got you. That's exactly what we do.
Well, I think you asked, "Why not?" I'm like, "Well, I
Yeah.
could tell you why not." The answer is because I deal with it. Um, and I'm coming from the perspective of some of the medications that I take here in the US cost a lot more because they're through my
Yes.
insurance versus I could get them over the counter in Europe. And why not is because of another key player in this dynamic for both of us that we haven't talked about, which is the pharmaceutical industry. It is
Yes.
not in the pharmaceuticals industry best interest that we heal ourselves. I can't have you eating tomatoes, homegrown food. I need you on my cholesterol medication. Do the math.
And diabetes. You need to eat all the processed carbs and fats and fried foods and sugar so you can take your diabetes medicine and give me money.
Yes. So that's why not. That's why not. And then if I'm growing my own food, then the food industry and the pharma industry don't have my dollars. I don't want to poo-poo the pharmaceutical world. It's also the space I have family and friends in that space. I don't want to poo-poo that space, but it's hard to have the conversation when you don't bring the business into it. And then
Mhm.
once you start bringing in the business into it and the bureaucracy, next comes politics, right? Which
Mhm.
I know you and I are not going to go down that road. I don't think either of us want to. I am certainly not equipped to, but it all becomes interconnected of like, well, yeah, when we are commercializing and commodifying health for patients, there are going to be these types of consequences. Now, the other side of that, and you can appreciate this because healthcare providers, it's such a hot topic, right? Are they overpaid or underpaid? I would
Mhm.
say in many ways, underpaid. We're
Yes.
not paying them enough. But if you talk to the average Joe Schmo on the street who's making $30,000, $40,000 a year, they might say doctors make too much, right? So
Mhm.
there that comes up a lot, and so that's what I think is really hard and almost impossible. And we talked about this in the episode with Amanda, who, is has her own practice.
Mhm.
When you're mixing the finance and the healing, does it get sticky? Does it get difficult? How are you navigating that? Again, having one foot in, one foot out, kind of, as you
Mhm.
navigate functional medicine and traditional Western practices.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, that goes into people see the value in their health because if you don't invest now, you will pay for it. Probably the last decade of your life and end up in the hospital in and out, and your bill goes up, and doctors definitely don't get that bill. It's not us. We don't make that money. Um, in fact, we get taxed out of everything. But I feel like it's fair, and I remember both you and Amanda did this quite well. Y'all talked about how your insurance premium is going to be so high that you're basically paying out of pocket anyways. It's ridiculous. Like you're paying $400 per each treatment, and then you may not even meet that deductible. So if you look at the concierge side, that's where I sit at. I don't want to be bombarded with insurance at all because I see it. How restrictive it is. It's there if you need an urgent amount that's going to cost you that much money. That's great. But for this population, paying a copay to see me and you get that personalized approach and you get the tools of both Eastern and Western medicine. Like I'm a fully trained physician in the US. So yes, I agree. Like when you need pharmaceuticals, they're helpful, but there's also a percentage that it won't work on. And there's alternatives that would benefit people. And so you get that. So I justify my cash price for that. Like, when are you going to get a 60 to 90-minute visit by a physician? And when are you going to have access, my cell phone number, to text me when you need me? And, thankfully my clients are so respectful. They won't like text me at 3 a.m., demanding an answer. But like you get that true concierge approach that's such a good value. It's quality that I'm giving you. And you get access to the right supplements if you need that are third party um, and clean ingredients. You get advanced labs that are not offered at a conventional doctor's office. You get so many things customized to you personally. So why not? It just makes sense. And then you don't have to deal with the hassle of working with insurance. So that is how I justify it. You think about how much training, and Amanda said this well too. Like, I'm a board certified internal medicine physician plus specialized with extra training from Cleveland Institute, like Cleveland Clinic at the Institute of Functional Medicine. Like but you're getting an expert. So that in itself is such good quality. And I'm gonna spread that to whoever wants to be open to it, and it's well received. And people actually appreciate, oh, you don't take insurance? Great. I love this. So yeah, it's reasonable for what you get.
Yeah, and I said that on the episode with Amanda too. I think it's just a good analogy when we talk about the hairdresser, right? The
Yes.
idea of when you go in for a hairdresser, you don't go in for her to do it slower. You want your hair to look the best. It's not about
Yes.
the time she spends doing it. And if you go to a hairdresser that's less experienced, she takes her time. It takes her longer to get it done, and it's not as good. And so when you walk out of a haircut that took like 15 minutes and she made it look easy, that's my new thing right now. Like, you might do something well, but if you're not making it look easy, you're still not doing it flawlessly. It's when you can make something really difficult look easy, that you're doing it very well, because it has to have the appeal. So when you're able to just go in there and cut really quickly, and you could do a beautiful 15-minute haircut, you're not
Mhm.
paying for the 15 minutes, you're paying for the 15 years that preceded
Mhm.
her experience. Ironically, I have no problem with people profiting off the fact that I'm in tremendous pain and I want to get better. But
Mhm.
where it becomes sick and twisted and evil is if I think that there's any part of the system that is purposely keeping me in harm so I have to come back. That's where it gets sick and twisted, and I think that's where people get skeptical. But I have no
Mhm.
problem, like the doctors who have taken care of me, the healthcare providers that I've had, the people who invented these medications
Mhm.
that I can fix my blood, that I can, for the first time in my life, in the first time in my life,
Mhm.
January of this year, I had clean blood results. I was
Mhm.
convinced that they swapped my blood with someone else because that's never happened. Like,
Oh,
I just had
yeah.
clean, perfect blood, right? And so you're like, wow, thank you, technology. Thank you. And
Yeah.
of course, I want to pay for that. Do I think it's unfair that I have to pay for something that other people just wake up and have? Yeah. Do I have a lot of things that I just wake up and have, an ability to walk, an ability to hear, an ability to speak,
Mhm.
that other people have to pay to have help with because they don't have it? Yeah. So we all have our battles. We all have
Mhm.
something that someone else wish they can have. I accept that my health battle, I really have, where I've landed is that my health issues that have plagued me and have made me angry and have at times made me wish that I was never born, and have just hurt and embarrassed me and humiliated me. Ultimately, what they have done is they've given me a taste of what the end of the road looks like a little bit before I'm at the end of the road. I know what it's like to be on your bed wondering, what is life? Did I make the right decisions? Is this how I want it to end? And until you were in that bed, in the hospital, having conversations, bleeding out, you don't really understand that. And then to have an 8-week recovery on top of it in bed, you're I really got a taste of convalescence. And I talk about this in my book, but I got a taste of convalescence of like, oh my gosh, because the difference of my condition and
Mhm.
someone who is in a convalescent home is I'm told that I will get better. I will recover and I will get to go home. And so many other people don't get that same positive confirmation, affirmation. And so knowing that, I'm like, okay, this is where my health battles have been a blessing. They have taught me to budget. The
Mhm.
first I had a $16,000 bill that I didn't expect, because when I left my parents' insurance, I realized that they had amazing insurance. My dad was with the government, so they covered a lot of stuff. And the first bill I got was for $16,000 for 2 surgeries I had. That $16,000 was financially detrimental and devastating to me. The I had a couple of the bills went to collections. I didn't know that the bills
Mhm.
came in pieces. It was overwhelming. I wasn't trying not to pay my bills. Honest to God, I thought I had paid them all, but they
Mhm.
were coming in pieces of like 100 here, 300 here for months, that it was
Yeah.
confusing to me. I didn't have record keeping, and about $5,000 of them went into, or $3,000 went into collections. And so I was devastated. I felt like such a loser. I had never heard of things going to
Mhm.
collections, and it was just an awful circumstance. But what lesson did I learn? Take every medical bill seriously. So my record keeping for my medical bills is kind of insane, a little neurotic, but that's just the business Excel
Yeah.
loving lady in me. Yeah, my record keeping's insane for like when I got the treatment, what the date is of these treatments, and then that way making sure that I'm getting billed for what I should be getting
Mhm.
billed for, not getting overbilled. And because of the fact that that $16,000 was devastating to me, I learned 2 lessons. What first lesson was, $16,000 is a lot of money, and I gotta be careful when I just say yes to surgeries,
Yeah.
that there's a price on the other side. But then 2, I worked my ass off. I worked my ass off that year to make sure that I was meeting all my
Mhm.
bonuses, getting my full bonuses. And then I realized, okay, I've never really been motivated by money, but I'm motivated by being healthy and having options.
Mhm.
And if being healthy and having options means that I have to hustle to make good money, then that's what I'm going to do. And that's what I got to do. And that's fine.
Of course, and that's hard. I mean, even the medical system is so convoluted that yes, that's very common actually to get surprise bills still, to get bill after bill and then not knowing it goes straight to collections. It can be daunting, but you're not alone in that. It's definitely a conversation to be had and other women out there that it's okay. And a lot of times it is a fear thing. So you could set up payment plans too. So you don't have to come up with that large cash. A lot of times you could try to set up payment plans so it's not too hard on your bank and emotionally.
We only have one body. You only
Mhm,
have one body. And I think that's a really good segue into the last question that I ask every guest, which is about the Seth philosophy, because
mhm,
mine very much in this season is physical.
mhm,
Seth stands for spiritual, emotional, financial, and physical. And it's the idea of creating a balance, knowing that when we're focused on one, we're not always able to focus on the other. They're all important, but sometimes we let some backslide. Can you talk a little bit about from a Seth balance, like where you feel the strongest and where you hope to grow?
yes, okay. So a little bit of real talk here. And I thought so spiritually wise, yes. I got my beliefs. I have my spiritual practice as well because I believe in also balancing the mind, body, spirit. So I'm definitely strong on that. Financially, I would say, um, physical, definitely. I prioritize my health too. So you'll see me out there doing my resistance training, maintaining my muscle, as well as my everything else that goes along with it, health, and also doing yoga, so that balances both this. You could add in like the meditation, so that balances out everything. I know, like financially wise, yes, like thank god, being a physician in the hospital does give you that stability and able to provide, because you're always going to need a doctor in the hospital. It doesn't matter where. You're going to need a doctor in the hospital. But I guess in a way I could take it a step further, because for me to also be a business owner, to have that thrive, I want that to be financially better. So yes, I could improve on that. But then also I thought I was emotionally pretty strong and balanced. And I think overall I am, but there are moments, and this is where the real talk comes in. There are moments, because I wear so many hats, that I do have to give myself a little bit more grace, because mom guilt all the time. It doesn't matter. I don't care if people deny it. That mom guilt is there. Even some of the stronger moms, and I've had such good conversation with people. Yes, that mom guilt is there, but you're building resilient kids. Yes, you can't be there all the time, but when you're there at the moments, you're making quality time count. You're building that balance for them. And then also like struggling with, okay, this is something different I'm doing. Yes, I'm confident that I can do this, but emotionally, like, you still got to battle like the conventional medicine part, right? You got to battle the South Asian culture. Um, and sometimes, yes, it gets too much. So emotionally, we all have our ups and downs, and that's okay. I may fall down, but I get back up and I figure out how to be stronger. So, yes, I would say that. And that's real talk there. And that's coming from a strong female, because it's okay. A strong woman can have moments of vulnerability, but like I said, like you were having your vulnerability, right? That's where strength comes in. And it shows others that you could still be strong and successful, but you're human too. And let that be. Like that's okay. So yes, I would say the finance and emotional. And that's
Mhm.
it's yin and yang. You're gonna balance every stage of your life. And that's how you
It's
just
so true.
become better, right? Like that's how you level up.
It's so true. And going to what you said about your sons and the mom guilt and the bouncing back up, it is such a balance. And of course, I'll reiterate that I am not a mother. But I think one of the disservices that we do to our children, and I'm even throwing my parents in this, right? Because we just talked about how strife and difficult situations, we come out stronger and better and faster and all of these things. Well, unfortunately, it works in the inverse as well. When everything is handed to us on a silver platter, when things are soft, when we know that our parents are consistently always going to be there for us, which is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing to have a soft life. There isn't tenacity being built. There isn't resilience being built. And then when the real world come around college, this is where I saw it unfold the most. It's the bouncing back is a lot harder because instead of being a little hardened with these life expectancies and you're like a rubber band ball, no, you're like an egg and you're fragile and you couldn't cope because of blank. And so that's when we see kids, turn to less resilient activities. And they could be self-destructive or whatnot. And so I think that as parents, it's so hard because you want to provide the consistency and the love and all of that. But really, it's the values you're showcasing and what you're doing. If your absence from whatever it is that you're unable to attend is because you are in the process of building financial wealth for the family and reaffirming that value of this is what we're doing. The best things in life come from sacrifice. If it's easy, if everybody's doing it, then it's probably not the thing that we want to be doing as a family. We are the family that steps up and we do more. And so my stepping up means that you have to step up. And I know that that's hard, but what that means is you are becoming a leader for tomorrow. You are in a better position to know for tomorrow. And so having those conversations with ourselves and with each other, again, I'm not a parent, but I had parents, right? And they
Mhm.
made a lot of mistakes, but they also made two strong, resilient children as a result. And I think that when you're keeping a thumb on the pulse, you can't go wrong. It's
Yeah.
when you kind of let it go and like go lackadaisical, like, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Mom guilt? No, I don't know. It doesn't matter that I wasn't there. They won't notice. Those are the times where it's probably detrimental. But if you're at least
Mhm.
aware of it, I think that's incredible. It shows tremendous fortitude.
Oh, thank you for that. And yeah, I think everyone has their own journey, right?
Yeah, yeah. And I do wanna say that because I touched upon it earlier, you're really bright and bubbly, but I had someone say to me one time, "Oh, life hasn't hit you yet."
Mm.
And this person did not know me. I had
Mhm.
just had my engagement called off. Like I said, I've had these health issues. I've
Mhm.
been in and out of hospitals, had a very difficult, traumatic childhood. I would say a lot of things about my life and it's blessed and I'm grateful, but growing up was not easy for me. And I just looked at this guy because I was so kind to him and I was like, "Hope you're having a nice day and how are you?" And he was just like, "Oh, you're one of those people who life hasn't hit yet, right?"
Mm. That just frustrates me because someone said that to me too. And even like most recently, I would say, well, not that recent, but like in my late 20s and then into my 30s. But honestly, people have it. Don't get it twisted. Don't let me tell you, don't get it twisted because that's strength. That people that go through so much darkness and their own struggles and they can still choose to be happy and kind, that doesn't mean you're a pushover, but that you can show kindness to strangers, that's strength. And you just you're just gonna come across those people and that's fine. That's not your tribe. That's just unfortunately sad because they let the worst part of life get to them and that's how it shows.
Exactly. Oh, that's what I was saying about the traffic. So when I'm in traffic and someone's a bad driver, I put my hand out and I pray for them and I go, "Oh my gosh, they're probably on the way to like the hospital to get the worst news of their life. Oh my gosh, their son was in an accident and you get there, sir. You get there. Oh my god, he cut me without his signal, but he must be suffering." I'm not kidding. I really do this. And I get so sad for them and I pray for them and I pray they get there safely. And my boyfriend thinks I'm batshit crazy. He's like, "No, that guy's just an asshole." And I'm like, "No." Because by choosing to think that he's a jerk, I'm just sucking in his poison. I will not
Mm.
suck in the poison. I choose hope. I choose hope.
Yes,
It's
yes.
harder to say, "Oh, you hurt me. Let me give you grace. Let me forgive
Mhm,
you. Let me bless you. Let me pray for you." But what do I think is the world I want to connect? Do I want a world where it's like me
mhm.
and we're all blessing each other and being nice? Or do I want the world where I'm angry and I'm going to get mine because you took it from me and I'm going to roll up next to you and I'm going to give you the middle finger? It's like,
Yeah,
no, I
yeah.
choose peace. And just because I choose peace doesn't mean that I haven't had the same, if not worse, adversities
Mhm.
as you because, like you said, you let the bitterness get to you. I love that.
Exactly.
Mhm. Oh, yeah.
Completely agree with
Yeah.
that.
Anytime I meet someone who's super sunny, I'm like, "Oh, she's seen some shit."
You're right. I'm like, you always know you're right. Like the brightest people have gone through something to be that person today. That is so
Mhm.
true.
Oh, yeah. That's why you look at something and go, "Oh, yes, okay. A pandemic. That's great. Well, I'm not in war." You're like, I you know what I mean? Like, you can
Yeah.
get to that point of perspective, but and this is
Mhm.
what it goes back to what we were saying earlier. Unfortunately, when we don't have adversity and difficulties, and gosh, I needed this message, Lord, so I see what you did here. When we don't have those difficulties to overcome, the other side is just not as sweet. I really do believe
Yeah.
that. And so you can find the sweetness in the everyday things when you know what it's like not to have them, to know not to take them for granted. My
Mhm.
health, because I've spent time in hospitals and cooped up and just wanting to order Chipotle, but they're not letting me because
Yeah.
apparently hospitals don't like when you order DoorDash at the freaking bed. I think that's stupid. Why do I have to have your crappy food? Don't want me ordering my Chipotle, so then my mom's sneaking in the Chipotle like some undercover Mission Impossible
Yeah.
just to give me my damn good food because I don't want that hospital food or vending machine life, okay? But there are all these little things where it's like, yeah, I appreciate Chipotle. I appreciate that I can get Chipotle because I know that there's a
Mhm.
time in my life where I've been denied it, right? And so even on the small things,
Yes.
just finding the beauty in everything and going, I know what it's like to wake up and not be able to walk to go to the
Yeah.
bathroom. I know what that's like. So
Mm.
on the mornings where I can get up and go and walk to the bathroom, I'm going to say thank you and I'm going to pray for the others who just wish that they had this gift that I have right now.
Yes.
But that type of gratitude don't come from a soft life. So, well, thank you so much for the giggles. You made me feel better. I really thought I was going to cry on this podcast and just vent about how I hate my life because
Mm.
that's a hate my body, hate my life. That's what I've been saying to myself all day. And I just really, really want to thank you for coming on, sharing your brightness and your wisdom. I know I kind of hijacked it here a little bit, but I'm really looking forward to this friendship and I want to hear more about your concierge business. So for anybody who's interested in joining in as a patient, do you take patients virtually? Do they have to be in the state of Texas? Can you talk a little bit about that for anybody who is looking for an amazing someone like me, right? Who's looking for someone who they can call, text, be BFF with, and just
Yes.
say, "Hey, girl, help me out with this blood clot," right? So, looking at that, how could someone? We'll make sure to link everything in the show
Yes.
notes, your email and all everything that you mentioned, your website, but how can people find you to reach out about getting their
Yeah.
own personal private doctor?
Definitely. So, if you are local to DFW, I offer in person concierge. If you are in other states or across Texas. I can see you as well. I am licensed across multiple states. I know you're from California, so I am licensed in California. And you have multiple friends that probably listen. I have other state licenses too. So shoot me a message on Instagram, email me, and I can get you set up, and we could set up a virtual consult that way and go from there.
Yay! Well, thank you so much. It was so wonderful to have you. Thank you so much for bringing out your wisdom and expertise and sharing yourself with us, because I know that you are doing such beautiful work. We like to say soul beautiful work where I'm from. Soul beautiful. You're so beautiful. So thank you so much. I really mean that. Thank you, Dr. Remina, for everything you're doing to create a healthier, better tomorrow for all of us.
Thank you so much for having me, and I hope you bounce back soon. I know you will.
Thank you for listening in to Eavesdrop with Ella. If today's episode inspired you, please subscribe, rate, or review Eavesdrop with Ella on your favorite podcast platform. While you're at it, you should also send this episode to a friend so we can connect with more eavesdroppers just like you. If you'd like to be a guest, you can visit ellaparlor.com to learn more. Until next time, this is Ella Parlor reminding you to stay resilient, stay abundant, and above all, stay balanced. Thank you for eavesdropping, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
You've been listening to Eavesdrop with Ella, a production of EP Consulting. Some of the products and services mentioned are paid promotions, and any advice should be confirmed with a qualified professional. Opinions and ideas are for entertainment purposes only and belong to EP Consulting. All rights reserved.